Hello, everyone. I apologize for the lack of countdown. I told Gavin I know how to do that, but apparently I don't. So I will be your live countdown. I'm not going to count down from 30. I'm just going to say thank you so much for being here. I hope that you will come ready to learn and ready to ask questions, and give everybody a minute to settle in. Grab your, if we were at a friendly spot, we'd be saying grab your beer, grab your nachos, grab whatever it is to support the friendly spot and to fill your tummy and fuel your conversation. We're so happy that technology allows us to continue pub theology during a pandemic. When you think about it, that's pretty amazing, and we're very grateful for that. And so we just want to start, even though it's easy to focus on a lot of the tragedy, not easy, we have to focus on so much of the tragedy and the hardship brought on by this. And also, we're forced to reckon with all of the inconvenience and the things that aren't quite as good. Like, it's just not quite as good not to be together. But we are so thankful that not only are we able to still continue these conversations, we are able to bring in people from their homes, from their offices, and it really has allowed us to get people engaged throughout the summer and wherever they may be. And tonight, that is especially true because we have an amazing group of people here to talk about Prop B on the ballot in San Antonio. Hopefully, some of you were the brave souls in those first long lines as early voting has started. Those have, honestly, one day I was driving past and got teary-eyed because it's so amazing to see so many people standing in the hot sun and counting it part of their democratic duty. And I mean democratic in the sense of democracy in action. And so that has been something that's just really sat on my mind during this week as voting began. And I'm so happy that we have people who can not only encourage us to just go vote, but to just vote in an informed way and to tell us and explain to us why some of those things are on the ballot and why we're seeing some of what we're seeing. And that is the panel that we have for you tonight. I want to encourage everybody to ask questions. We will be able to see them and address them during the evening. But I also just think that even if you are coming with your general question of what is this all about, you're about to get some really great answers. And so I'm going to start by introducing my friend and what do you call someone that you're a fan of? Anyway, someone I'm a fan of, Mayra Juarez-Denez. She is a leader with COPS Metro. And many of you are familiar with COPS Metro for the work that they do, giving a voice to people who are more powerful together, really amplifying the voices of people by bringing them together and using collective action to make those in power pay attention. And I think that is really an inspiring goal, and the things that COPS Metro has used that for over the years have been remarkable, some of the changes that have been driven by that group. And so I would like you to meet Mayra, and I'm going to let her bring on the amazing panel that has assembled here tonight.
Thank you, Becca. Can you hear me well?
You're good.
Very good. Well, I'm not going to take much time from the amazing, talented leaders that we have tonight to talk about Prop B, but thank you, to Gavin and Pop Theology for having us today to explain more of how we brought this proposition to the ballot, how COPS Metro initiated this and bring it to the ballot so San Antonio can become a better city. So with no more time taken, so something that we do at COPS Metro, they speak for themselves, the leaders of COPS Metro. So please bring them in and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, shall I introduce myself now?
Go for it. Jump in.
Okay. I'm Sister Jane Ann Slater. I'm a Sister of Divine Providence, and my convent is Our Lady of the Lake Convent, which is actually part of the campus of Our Lady of the Lake University. I've been a sister, as you can tell, I'm not a young person. I've been a sister for many, many years, and I actually taught chemistry for a bunch of years at Our Lady of the Lake. I'm currently the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of San Antonio, and I'm a member of COPS Metro. So that's who I am. Happy to be here.
We're happy you're here too.
Thank you.
You guys fire at will.
Who's next? Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Father John Raharjo. I'm pastor at St. Patrick Catholic Church in San Antonio, and also a leader with COPS Metro. And glad to be here with all of you this evening.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adriana Rocha Garcia. I am not in the religious life, but I do serve the community as a city council member for District 4, and I'm happy to be here with these great folks today. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thank you for having us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Robbins. I am an alum of Project Quest. So over 20 years ago, I was a single mom with 3 children, and it really was Project Quest that was instrumental in who I get to be today, which is essentially a nutritionist, a life coach, and a business consultant for many women all over the United States. Thank you.
Well, I am so excited about this group, and I am going to pretty much just lob a question out there, and I have a pretty good feeling that things will get rolling because there's a lot of spiritual, intellectual, and people power in the room tonight. So I would like to hear your explanations of what is Prop B as it will appear on the ballot, but then as it kind of appears in the community, as it will appear in the community, and why you consider it an issue of social and spiritual and ethical importance, and why basically why people who wouldn't necessarily be part of that initiative, why it is part of the health of our community and each voter's health.
Okay, I think I'm on first, so I will start. As COPS Metro is an organization of organizations that really empowers people to speak for themselves, to deal with issues that affect their lives. And as we looked at what was happening in the community even before COVID hit, we were looking at we were looking at housing as a basic human right. It's part of our right to have a place to live, to have a job that will support our families, ourselves, to have good ways of traveling to back and forth. So part of the common good, we're really based in bringing about the common good. And we were looking at housing before we got on this issue. We were looking at housing and how people were losing their homes due to gentrification, particularly on the west and east and south sides, as property taxes, as values of property were increasing, then property taxes were increasing, and people were finding it more and more difficult to keep their homes, to maintain their neighborhoods. And then the COVID hit, and we looked at, people are losing their jobs because of COVID, and many times, the jobs they were losing were very poor paying jobs. and they were not able to. They had to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to make a life for themselves, and then they were strapped for funds. So, and then we knew that over the years, San Antonio has been touted to prospective businesses as a low-wage city. San Antonio is a service-oriented city, tourism, hotels, businesses that need to be cleaned, and so on. And we said, this is a time people are losing their jobs because of COVID, but they've also been, very many of them are in low-paying jobs, and some of those jobs will never come back. And we said, this is an opportunity. So COPS Metro was able to get in, to organize our membership, to be able to put together the proposal that we call Proposition B. And what it is a workforce training program. And I know Venice is going to talk a little bit more about her experience, but this program is really based in the program that COPS Metro put in place, I don't know, 20 years ago, to help people get prepared for jobs. So they set up a way of intake, what the students would need. They would be able to provide wraparound services, childcare, books, whatever, so that a person can go through this program and get a job, maybe move from something that is pays $12,000 a year, $15,000 a year, to a job that is much better, maybe $45,000, $50,000 a year, and depending on the initiative of the person, maybe more. So we see this as a human right, a common good way of addressing the needs of the people in our city, to be able to take them from low-paying jobs into jobs that are waiting for them. This is collaborating with employers in the city, so we don't have to keep going out of San Antonio to find workers for jobs. So this is part of what COPS Metro has always done, and this opportunity presented itself. And I'm a sister of Divine Providence, and I believe that Providence was very much a part of getting this initiative articulated and getting it on the ballot. So it's political in that it's an issue that we will vote on, but it's not partisan. So I strongly support Proposition B, and I voted today.
Should I jump in and continue, sister?
I think so, Father.
Okay, so yes, good evening. So to elaborate more now about this Proposition B, again, I'm Father John. I'm a pastor in a parish here in St. Patrick in San Antonio. If some of you might be wondering, like, well, there's a priest there just to take care of the community and the congregation, and why talk about Proposition B, like and something about a little bit of spirituality too here, for this this theology in this evening is that, my feeling always when something hit really seriously like COVID like that, I told myself really, like, John, do something, don't just sit down and do nothing. That's the way I said to myself, do something in this not perfect world, but can do something for others. So that with that, we had some discussion and then some project here on the Proposition B. The way I explain to my community is like this, well, mom and dad also need to get back to work and to enter into a career with a future, and not just a job to cover next week's bill week after week. With that, it is a job training for higher paying jobs, a 4-year program that will connect over approximately 40,000 families with job training and certifications for industries that are hiring now in San Antonio, with support for starting and completing college degrees. So this is really setting up San Antonians on the path to a stable economy, career, farther above and beyond post-pandemic economy. So looking also forward. And there is no new tax, no new tax in here, no new taxes. Voters are simply deciding to redirect an existing 1/8 cent sales tax to support this job training and workforce development. So more opportunities for those who need it. That's the way often I said it again to my community. And as Sister Jane said, yes, there is also with this wrap around services, including transportation assistance, ranging from car repair to bus fare. And the targeted trainees are those who are displaced by COVID-19, those like a high school diploma or some equivalent certificate, and those graduated college but finished some college credits. Criteria will be developed to ensure equity across our target demographic. So the 1/8 cent sales tax will be redirected from this EAPP if voters approve this measure, and this will generate approximately 38 million annually. What is that EAPP? Because some questions about that too. So the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. So that will be funded by the city in different ways using revenue received from the San Antonio water system. So with this, then there is a protection of the program of this Edwards Aquifer will continue, but still it is also time for us to invest, especially during this COVID situation, in our communities, invest in our own people. So if people ask me what is the reason to vote yes on this proposition B, it is because it will help approximately, again, 40,000 displaced workers with a good new career without a new tax. And because it will raise our city's hopes without raising also, again, our taxes. So that is more or less the way I put it together, the proposition B in here.
And if I can just jump in and I'll give you my take on it. This is our opportunity to improve the future of San Antonio. So we have a program basically that's been created by an entire ecosystem of folks trying to help each other out. So this is going to be investing in training and upskilling and certifications and access to educational attainment. And we know that we have had in San Antonio the unfortunate legacy of economic segregation. And so I really think that this is our opportunity to be able to help families take care of their families for many generations to come. So this is our little dent at breaking that cycle of generational poverty. And so we're working together with, yes, the COPS Metro leaders. We're also working together with business leaders. We're working together with our colleges and universities who, by the way, are going to have to also figure out how to offer wraparound services in a different level, right? And so we're working with them using the Quest model. And you'll hear from a Quester here in just a little bit. I'm super excited about her sharing her story. But basically what the Quest model does is make sure that we give folks support so that they can go to school, so that they can continue studying without having to worry about putting food on the table. And so the best thing about engaging so many people, like the business community as well, is that we'll be able to adjust the needs based on the current needs of the job market. So we're able to be flexible and nimble and adapt to what is needed. And so I mentioned Project Quest earlier, and I think Sister Jane alluded to this, but so Project Quest, we as residents of San Antonio basically receive an ROI of about $19.32 for every dollar that's invested in Quest. And so Quest has a completion rate of about 90%. So you can see why we decided to model this after Project Quest, because it shares one of the greatest success rates across the country. Actually, they've been held as the gold standard across the nation. And so I wanted to share something with you all. You mentioned earlier, the question was, how is this social and ethical? And there was one other question that you mentioned. And so as I was thinking about this, we and we're on Pub Theology, so I get to talk about this, right? So we are all inspired to do greater good for someone. This is our opportunity to pitch in and do something greater for someone that we probably will never meet. And so I'm reminded of Corinthians, and I'm reminded that we are all one body, but we're made up of many different parts. And so all of us have to function together. Unfortunately, COVID has made us see how some of our body parts are not working, right? As a whole, as a community, we're one. But COVID has really showed that there's disparities. And so we have seen how a lot of our community members have been lost. So I think it's 1,200 people who happen to be some of the most vulnerable residents. And there are also some of the folks that already share unfortunately underlying health conditions like diabetes and heart disease and obesity. And so things that they have maybe built up along their lifetime because of lack to access to healthcare or lack of a good quality of life. And that all stems from the job that you have. And unfortunately, what drives the job that you have is the education that you receive. And so this is our opportunity to really focus on that. And so we've been partnering with the community colleges, the universities, with employers like Toyota and HEB and Valero and USAA and Rackspace, who, by the way, have committed to on-the-job training as well, and to hiring some of our employees. We have about 23 folks that are ready, small businesses that are ready and excited about this. And so it's going to take all of us to work together on a collective vision for San Antonio and to change the future of San Antonio. And I think that the best thing about it is that, like Father John mentioned earlier, we are not abandoning what folks know is very important to us, which is the Edwards Aquifer. We have found a creative solution that allows the city CFO, if this is passed, to be flexible and nimble enough, just like we will with our numbers and with our measurements, to look for some opportunities where we can really be able to manage quicker, right, through some of the dips that we know are coming. So if we're able to do that at the city level, we also want our residents to be able to manage through some of the downs that will be coming here shortly. And we've heard from many economists that this is going to be a long recovery. It's not just going to be 1 year. And so we hear from the experts all of the time, right? And we're constantly hearing. And so we are learning from them, and we're trying to put together a program that will really change lives. And I'm excited to be a part of it, and looking forward to your questions, further questions. And if any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly as well. Thank you.
Well, I think I'd like to jump in. Only because, there's one expression that I love. It might sound a little cliche-ish, but I'm going to use it anyways. And that's, you can give a man a fish and he eats for a day. You teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime. And, I am a living example, and I know I'm not the only one, but I was one of those people, nearly 20 years ago who I didn't know how to fish. I was a single mom, and I was raising 3 kids under the age of 5. And I was on food stamps. I was not able to financially take care of my children. And I had this moment where I realized, if I don't go to school or get some type of education, I'm going to stay this way. And I made this, it was such a clear moment for me. And I made this decision in my mind. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get some kind of education. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do, but I put my mind to it. And then I was like, I don't have money. Like, I don't have the money to do it. I have the desire. And I honestly don't know how I heard about Project Quest, but I got into their process, and it was such a huge resource for me, because my biggest challenge was I have 2 kids that are in elementary school, and I have 1 3-year-old, and I didn't know what to do with that 3-year-old because I couldn't take him to school with me. And through Project Quest, they have this thing called wraparound services, and basically what that means is it's not just like money for school, but it's resources that can help someone who is wanting to go to school or some type of job skill training program, so that they can be able to put their focus on that. So one thing that I was I was able to take advantage of and utilize as a resource was, pre-K for my 3-year-old. And my books, I got assistance with my books. If I needed to take the school bus, the VIA bus to college, I was, and it was huge for me. And I did 2 years at San Antonio College, yay SAC, ACC. And then I transferred to University of Incarnate Word, and I got my degree there. And I utilized everything that, the Quest program made available to me. Long story short, I graduated from college in 4 years. I was like, I'm going to go full time and I'm going to get it done in 4 years. I went summer schools, like it was so much work, but I was determined to do it. And, I was never on food stamps again. I was able to get a job, and I was able to financially sustain my children, my family. And it was huge. And, I've shared this because I love sharing just my journey of going from being a single mom to I'm actually an entrepreneur. I have 3 businesses that I run. And, it's been huge, not only for me to know myself as a woman, as a person who can actually take care of myself financially. But then it's a whole other thing to see my children, who my eldest son is now 31. He's about to graduate. He is in his last semester at Texas State University in San Marcos. And he literally just got a job at NASA Space Center as an engineer. He did an internship in this area that's like an emerging field of technology in utilizing like the electromagnetic frequencies from outer space to build batteries. It's like this insane, like, and why am I sharing that is because, what I say is that's what became available to my family from me being really gritty and courageous and saying, I'm going to go to college. And then having the resources temporarily to undergird me so that I could learn how to fish for myself, And so I mean, I really believe this, something like Project Quest, wraparound services, the voting for Prop B and being able to reallocate funds to help about 40,000 families. It's not just going to help the people that go through the programs that they go through. It's going to impact generations. And, I have a 9-year-old granddaughter, and she, my grandma name is Gigi. And, we talk about she's going to college, and she's like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a gynecologist. I'm like, okay, at 9. It's just kind of normal. And I have 2 other sons there. One is in accounting. He lives in Colorado. And my other son he's actually about to start electrical. He wants to be an electrician and go through a skilled trade program in Colorado because he loves working with his hands. So I just want to share that with you because something like this it's like a generational impact. It's a ripple that will actually impact generations. And I just think it's like, yes, let's do this. Can I get an amen on that? That's kind of my thought. And maybe
Amen.
I'm very passionate only because, you know, I've lived through it. And there's this one day I remember I didn't have food to eat because I had to make a choice to feed my kids or eat food. And I just remember thinking on that day, I'm going to eat this little corn tortilla because that's all I had, because I was going to give them food. And I just remember thinking, it's what you're doing right now that you're not going to live like this, having to make a choice between who eats in my home. And I've never had to make that choice, you know, but it took me reaching out and getting the support being available, first of all, and taking advantage of those resources and doing the work and it was hard raising 3 kids, you know, like doing the work to finish going all the way through. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Denise. I think that's really inspiring. One of the things that came up as you were talking to me was that there's a perception that when a program like this comes along and you see a dollar amount and you see a program that it's what we call like a government handout, or a program that's kind of a one-time infusion for folks. And there's 2 issues that I think that raises that I would love to hear folks on this panel address. One is what you were just talking about. What makes this different as far as the generational and community impact? And then 2, the fact that the issues that a systemic fix is appropriate for a systemic issue. And so what are some of the systemic issues that this addresses? Sister Jane Ann she hinted at them in her intro, and I'd love to get deeper into that because I think that helps us see that this is not just a matter of charity, something that the church is very familiar with and is very necessary in that realm, but this is a matter of a systemic issue, getting a systemic fix. And so I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on those 2 things.
Well, I'd like to pick up on that a little bit. You know, the systemic, one of the systemic issues is there is in San Antonio an economic disparity. I mean, we have an economic divide. And in fact, you know, we know that the city was actually for years was set up and neighborhoods were set up with funds going to some, more funds going to some than others. And it's we still live with that. And because some of the school districts in areas that are less economically sound have less funds from the tax base, and they have, I mean, their system struggles. So people drop out of school for whatever reason. And sometimes it's for lack of models or lack of mentors or lack of support, helping a person believe I can do this. So Project Quest, I'm going to go back to that because Project Quest is known nationally for its success, as the councilwoman said. It is known across the country, and it works. It works because they have one counselor say will work with a fewer number of students than the community colleges do right now. So one of the things that would happen in the implementation of this program, if the Proposition B passes, is to get a system of intake of students whose needs are understood by the counselor, and the wraparound services, childcare, transportation help with rent or whatever, are not all the same for all the students. It's a person based, and it works. So this is a systemic issue that has been addressed in San Antonio and in some other cities across the country who use programs similar to Project Quest. The success rate addresses a systemic problem. The program brings about change in not just a life for a day, but in a life for a life. And it's education is the key. It's the key to our being able to even to vote well, or to read well, or to express ourselves well. So this is looking at San Antonio from a systemic point of view and seeing what the needs are, and then finding a way to address those needs. And more than one need is going to be addressed, because amount of money that's raised, food, further education, family strength, quality of life, as I indicated before, common good. So doing this is really, it seems like a small thing, but it's huge.
And I'd like to follow up with Sister Jane's comments there. And the way that I see this is, well, this is obviously a longer term plan. This is an investment, and we need to look at it as an investment. And this is what you're doing. You had no idea that over the last few years, you had been helping someone's son eventually become a NASA engineer. And we just heard that, right? And in the story that we heard. And so what we're really doing here is taking these opportunities. We have many Give the Man a Fish programs at the city. We will help with utility, rental assistance, etc. But we don't really have the Teach a Man How to Fish programs. And that's exactly what this is. And so it gives the opportunity for an impact to go across generations. And just like you've seen it firsthand today, but also there's social services that we would eventually save on, right? So thinking about the impact to our economy, when people have better jobs, they are able to buy retail. They're able to go and have food at a restaurant. They're able to, to share. To share, to give back and support nonprofit organizations and give back to the community that helped them. And that's exactly what we're doing. So when you look at the direct and the indirect and the induced effect, that folks that will be able to spend more money, right, because they will have more spending power if they have some additional funds. This is really a win-win for the entire community, but we need to look at it as an investment that's going to be long-term. So I have heard some people say, oh, well, what about the immediate needs? The immediate needs are being addressed right now. And so the fact is that the city and Federal CARES Act money has dedicated $44 million of the $75 million that we have dedicated currently to workforce, specifically towards housing and childcare and transportation and utilities and food and other wraparound services, including a stipend. And so we recently added another 32 million even to the housing security pillar. So that went from 76.1 million to $108.3 million. So we have significantly invested in taking care of our folks. Now we're also planning for the future through Proposition B, and that's exactly the opportunity that you have today, or when you go and cast your vote, right, to say, hey, this is an investment in my future as well, because this benefits all of us. This impacts us now, and this impacts generations to come. It might be your, grandchild that is, impacted one day with the small investment that you made today. So thank you for letting me add on there, Becca.
I'd like to add one other piece to this. It's kind of another, Sister Jane kind of spoke to it. So the nature of the work that I do these days is I'm a life coach. So I coach women all over the United States, and I also consult business owners. What I discovered is a lot of my, clients, they would really begin to believe in themselves, and they started to like pursue their dreams. And I'm always amazed at how many women want to start a business. So I got into business consulting, which is so much fun for me. And because I've basically built a business, and now I teach other women how to build their businesses. But what I want to say specifically is another systemic issue that gets addressed is, I would call it mindset. And specifically what I mean is the belief in one's self. So like some things we only get by experience, a lot of things we only get by experience. And being able to like know myself as someone like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could do it. I actually did it. There's like a confidence in like the ability to do more and be more. And children really, it's like the other cliche, sorry, I'm full of cliches tonight, but more is caught than taught. You know, children learn mostly by what we model. And you know what I really have experienced is as people believe bigger in themselves, as they achieve bigger than they ever thought they could, it literally kind of overflows and spills over into their family. And it's been so incredible, well, to see in my own life, so I'm one example, but to also see it in the nature of the work that I get to do. Like it really does make a difference. And something like Prop B is an opportunity to really end a systemic mindset that just keeps getting passed on from generation to generation. Now, there could be some exceptions to that. I'm not going to make an absolute statement, okay, because it's not actually really probably accurate. But many times we'll just say, does that make sense? I want to really make sure I'm communicating. It's more of a not an obvious systemic challenge, but it definitely is, where we go generation to generation to generation. So I'd like to hear what anyone else on the panel has to say about that.
I think there's a lot of just thinking about what you just said, Venice. That
Sorry,
we my kids just thundered through. Like we were about 1 second from hearing like an elephant herd pass through here. I think that a lot of times we do think about like there's the stuff that is our collective responsibility, and then there's the stuff that like your mindset is your own, and your interaction with the systems and things that we have in place really isn't our problem. You should be, you know, have more grit, have more resilience, have all of that, as opposed to like, if the street's broken, then yeah, that's our responsibility. If like there's, you know, if there's a crumbling sidewalk, that's our responsibility. But your ability to navigate it has nothing to do with our systems. And I think what you're pointing out is that, and what we're starting to see more and more of, is that interactions with our systems have an effect on the individual. And that's right now this Prop B seems to be aimed at creating a system individual point of contact that is healthful in addition to being helpful.
Becca,
Yeah.
may I?
Oh, shoot.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, start over again.
Yes, when you're saying interacting with the systems, I think CUPS Metro leaders can tell you more about, you know, this is how their leadership development is. It's about understanding the institutions, understanding how to work together and organize, to understand power, and to understand how am I gonna get that I need for my families. So, Father John, do you want to share more about how we started this conversation when the crisis started?
Yeah, so like I want to start that commenting on that, you know, mindset like that, because I met sometimes some people even thinking about like voting or go out to vote, as we use that term, go out to vote. and Prop B. There is Prop A. There is some city propositions also, and all those are certainly interconnected. I want to touch one question there that said, well, okay, what does the position of the Gulf Metro about other city propositions like? And this relate with this mindset, like, I mean, you just mentioned it there, Venice, about mindset. Sometimes some mindset that, of why do I do this one? Why should, I mean, why I would vote for this one, for this proposition, or B or A, or the pre-K for SA also. Sometimes the question even like, what will I get for that one? If I vote for that one, for this proposition, what is it for me? But this exactly those another part of the mindset, I think, is that, and that Myra, you said about that, that how to learn to work together. And sometimes one of the things that is critical in my reflection is that every time we have like some issues like that the question that, yes, sometimes in some nature we could be egotistic in certain way, and then if something not benefit me directly, like, what is it for me? Okay, well, let's say, for example, I'm 66 years old, I'm already retired. What is it for me, that one? I don't need job anyway, I'm okay. But it's not only just me. Mindset also, like, it really, the city, even the nation needs this kind of mindset of thinking wider. And not only imagine if as a nation, then each one of us in the middle of this pandemic now, and then each one of us will be thinking, well, what is it for me? If nothing for me, then like, why should I vote? But that I touched there another mindset there, mindset about, like, I mean, to help people to invest, the long-term investment. Councilwoman mentioned about that, to see it in the long-term investment. Sometimes we do not see the result right away, and sometimes we want to see, I want something just instant result, or maybe just like I just see if in terms of my self-interest. If it's nothing for me, then why should I vote for that? But it's actually even a test, this one, to see wider, to work together. Do you think this pandemic actually really, I mean, just like wake up call for us, like, hey, we need to work together on this one, and maybe see wider, think wider, and act wider, and with that, like why should I support this one? Like, well, because we need to tackle this one together.
And picking up on that, Father John, why should I vote for it? Well, another reason I should is that, and the councilwoman referred to that, the payback for every dollar invested in Project Quest, for example, the payback is $20 plus or more. So when people, and this is self-interest, but when people get a better job, then they can afford to spend money on things that they weren't able to have before. Then they're contributing sales taxes to the city. So the city as a whole reaps the benefit of this. This is not an individual investment. It's an investment in individuals that will impact the future of the San Antonio community. And that's part of what we're looking at. So I think we can't forget that. The more, I'm not saying that the more educated we are, the better we are. I'm simply saying that education has a direct impact on the quality of our lives. And that's an investment.
And just to continue on Sister's comments, and we have to do it together. And we can't afford to work at the speed of bureaucracy, right? And so our most vulnerable residents, they can't wait any longer. They've been waiting long enough. And right now, it's a perfect opportunity to do this and to invest in this. And so I know that there might still be some questions that people have. And I invite you to, instead of just complaining about the questions, help us improve the program. Send your recommendations now, but be a part of the solution. you can be a part of the solution by helping us really imagine what we can do, right? And fix it along as we go. And so I know that there's some opportunity, like Sister said, yes, with the spending power, we would be able to generate some additional money, not just for the city, for the county, for the federal government, but think about your school districts. It's what impact your school districts and the different taxing entities that we have at the city, right? And so it's beyond what is going to what it benefits for one person. It's really going to impact the entire community. The social savings alone that are you're going to be saved from folks that maybe don't have to claim unemployment anymore. That's going to be huge. And so people who get good jobs, high-paying jobs, not only can they spend more, but they also have access to health care. And so that keeps our community healthy. And so they might be able to prevent some diseases so that next time that something like COVID happens, they will have a better chance at surviving it. So it's an investment in many components of our lives, not just the people who we're investing in, but our lives as a community. So again, I just encourage everybody to ask as many questions as possible, but also give us your recommendations. What are your solutions? I mean, we've got to all get in this together right now and help one another out. If this is not the time, then I don't know when it's going to be the right time. And again, folks who are vulnerable, they've been waiting on this for many, many years, for decades. And it's just, it's really difficult to realize that there might be some people that just can't afford to wait any longer. And we have the ability with one vote, just go out and vote for Prop B to change many, many lives. So thank you. I'll get off my soapbox now, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're here. Like, this is an invited soapbox. This is
Okay.
what we do. Real quick on that though, I want to bring up a participant question from Facebook, and it ties into something that Sister Jane Ann mentioned at the beginning, and this, how would Prop B help residents cope with family uprooting? Would y'all talk a little bit about how this kind of stability could address some of the upheaval that families on the West, East, and South Side are seeing right now as a result of both gentrification and the destabilizing effects of the economy and COVID right now?
Well, one thing that's going to happen if as people perhaps on the West Side participate in the job training, their salaries will be better. You know, there are people on the West Side and South and East Sides that don't have clear titles to their homes because their homes have been passed down from grandmother to son to grandson, that, you know, and they've never changed the titles and they've lived there forever. So the opportunity to clarify some of that so that they are able to take advantage, they will understand how to take advantage of, say, the Homestead Act, which would put a top price on what their taxes can be, or they're 65 or older. Well, then they don't, their property taxes don't keep going up. So Proposition B, in providing a family member or family members with the education which will lead to a better job, will help people negotiate, could help know how to negotiate, know whom to go to get help in clarifying some of the things that keep them from participating in existing opportunities for keeping costs down. So this is just huge. And I want to pick up on the councilwoman's thing. Your vote does count. Your vote is so important. And your vote on Proposition B is important. And the option will be for or against. And you will find that proposition toward the bottom of the ballot after the candidates. So So don't think, well, I'm going to vote for candidates and then I'm finished. No, keep going down. Read the whole ballot. Go there, and you'll find Proposition B, and you'll be contributing to the quality of life of not only the person who's able to do, take advantage, but the quality of life of our city, county, state. Look at what Venice has done. Woo! Can you imagine? A lot of people like her going around. That's incredible.
Yeah. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I want to jump in a little bit that one just to continue what sister said, because also how to communicate this one to my congregation also in here, like in this theology group also, like, well, why is it, but I put the 2 weeks in a row, 2 weekends in a row on the front page of our parish, our church bulletin, our Sunday bulletin. It's just like a phrase that said, we all can and we should educate ourselves on local issues. And in that way, if you want to take it like theology or spiritual, like, and in that way, educate ourselves on local issues. And then in that way, we really learn to care for our closest neighbors. This issue that touch our closest neighbors here, San Antonians, for other San Antonians. Just make it make it more tangible like that in our local context here. Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that sometimes in national politics, here comes the elephants. In national politics, we get a little bit lost in the hopelessness of it and how it feels like our votes don't matter, or programs and all of that never really seem to deliver the impact that we hoped. But really and there's been a huge push in San Antonio over the last 10 years, especially, to just increase participation in local elections, and not just as a rah-rah San Antonio thing, but that is really where you see tangible changes in your neighbors' lives. And that's both the community interest of the neighbor, but it's the self-interest of it's my neighbor. It's my community that's getting healthier, and voting is how we participate in that. And I think a lot of us see we've talked about this a few times, like it doesn't seem political to help out someone whose car's broken down on the side of the road. That doesn't seem like a political act. But when we talk about something at this scale and involving a government entity, I think people get a little bit squeamish. And so I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on the capacity for good here, and just it's more of what we've been talking about, but just coming at it from yet another angle of the times, maybe even looking back at times when local government has really been about people coming together to achieve something. And I honestly think that the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program that Dr. Roger was saying will be not gone. It's not like we're trading that out, but that's a great example of something that we decided was a priority for our community. And it wasn't a matter of government telling us what we wanted to do, but a matter of people coming together to do something. And so I'd love to hear about how that strikes to a common chord with COPS Metro's mission. Other times where we've seen people and a community be able to come together and do what is inarguable good for each other.
Becca, you go ahead. Somebody else.
I'll just start really fast, but I think San Antonio is a resilient community, and time again, we are faced with challenges, and we just really work through together. We power through, and we help one another. And so I was listening to a podcast on the Harvard Business Review I think it was 2 weeks ago. And so Joe Fuller, who was a host of this program that I was listening to, he's a Harvard Business School professor. He said that not in his lifetime had there been a level of instability in the workforce combined with a very rapid and accelerated rate of change in business that has heightened these issues of economic inequality. And so he was saying that programs such as this one can make America more competitive for the future of the world economy, which we know is changing on a daily basis. And so this gives Americans more economic independence, right? And so when we think about it, he also, and it was neat that he was talking about this because he was referring to Project Quest, by the way, and he learned about Proposition B during the show, and he said that he hopes that more municipalities and states start emulating what we're pioneering here in San Antonio. And so I think that San Antonio has an opportunity to really make this a toolkit for others to follow. Imagine if this works in San Antonio and we could give that recipe to communities across the United States. We will have made a huge impact on entire generations of Americans. And so I'm really excited about the opportunities to get it right here, to fix it right here, and then to showcase that and to share it with everybody who wants to take advantage of it. So thank you.
What I was going to pick up on is, and I want to pick up on that, you mentioned, Becca, that maybe helping someone on the side of the road we don't think of it as a political issue. Well, it is, because it's a people issue. And so we sometimes think that politics are bad. Well, Pope Francis, and I'll just quote him a little bit, said that sometimes a lot of people say that Christians don't like politics. And he said that's not true. They immerse themselves in politics because they're trying to impact a greater good for more people, for the maximum people. And so I think we need to think about engaging ourselves in politics, in working with our cities, our communities, other people, and what we don't want to fall into, and COPS Metro does not, and that is partisan politics, taking the position of, promoting a party or an individual. And I want to say this because we've been working in the Archdiocese with our priests and with the people who work here at the Pastoral Center, and I've spoken to the sisters in the town. All of us have to form our conscience in what we believe is what is right for me. And what I do is I look at the issues that are around me and I say, well, how can I address that? That's what COPS Metro does. And then when the time comes, we present those issues. We have to find people who have the ability to articulate those issues. The candidates, for example, I'm not going to get partisan. I'm just going to make this nonpartisan political statement. We find candidates that articulate the issues the way I do, who can see that those issues are dealt with by the legislature for the best possible conclusion. We might not get everything we want. I might not. However, then I find a candidate who is a person of moral integrity, and I can hold that person up into my young friends, my nieces, nephews, grandchildren, whoever, and say, this person is really a good leader. And that's how we make our choice about for whom to vote. So we never get into who. I never tell you for whom you should vote, and you can't tell me either, but I can speak to you about issues. And that's what we're doing with Proposition B. Proposition B is an issue that will bring about incredible good to a lot of people in the city and as the councilwoman said, beyond. It's a model. We have an opportunity to make a huge difference in our city, our state, even nationally. Vote for
I love-
Proposition B.
We had a question earlier about if there were any other propositions that you guys supported. And so real quick, Maida, the question was, or actually Sister Jane Ann, any of you guys, does COPS Metro support any of the other propositions or want to take a public stance here? And you can say no, because we've had, if there's nothing else.
We do support Proposition A and also the transportation district's proposal, which is called Transportation District Proposition A, which will provide monies in the next 4 years after Prop B is not funded anymore by this sales tax, that will bring about an improvement in via transportation that will help everybody in the city get to where they need to get expeditiously and economically and quickly. Yeah.
And then
and Prop A as well. Please pay for SA. Yeah.
Yeah. Got to get it in there for the 4-year-olds. They can't vote.
No.
Sister Jane Ann, is there anything? I know that one of the Pope's encyclicals kind of spoke to this faith and politics issue. And I love what you're saying. And I think I'm going to let it just close us out for the evening about guidance for people of faith who are trying to figure out how to interact with this, what we would call a secular power, and what the church believes about those powers and the responsibility of people of faith to interact with them because of the impact that it has on God's children. And so I think I want to say thank you to all of our guests. And I know you all planned for an hour. And so if anybody needs to jump off, I want to say thank you. But I'd also, Sister Jane, if you had anything else to say on that, I would love for our listeners to really benefit from that, because that is what a lot of folks are really wrestling with.
Well, yeah. Pope Francis also says that the answer to the dilemma we're in nationally and worldwide can be, we need to dialogue with each other. We need to speak to each other. We need to talk about the issues and not try to convince each other. Simply say the way I see this is this issue is a common good issue. And we worked always to impact the greatest number of people in a positive way. And once I decide what issues do that and what candidates can facilitate the passage, the solving of those issues in a positive way for the maximum positive good, common good, then I am free, and it is in my, no one can tell me I'm wrong. Nobody, no priest, no bishop, no pope. And that's articulated by former Pope Benedict XVI. Can say you are wrong and you are sinning if you vote this way. You can't do that. If I have formed my conscience. So we need to help each other by dialoguing with each other, by bringing information like maybe you should read this. This might help you.
That'll preach.
Yeah.
As they say. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate humanizing part of our ballot. I just think that we could use so much more of this, and so much more of looking at the actual faces of people who can say that was a vote or that was a dollar well spent. And so I appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing. Appreciate all of our friends and neighbors who are standing in those epic lines to vote and driving people to the polls. And I do think, let's just keep the conversation going. I appreciate it so much. All right, I'm going to sign off and just tell everyone good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Blessings to everybody.